So this is a video on my land series. We are going down the mountain, approximately 2 miles left of the mountain road. I was having many problems with the videos not recording, and that's because apparently 32 gigabytes or whatever SD card is maxed out. So I've got plenty of gigabytes or whatever in my phone, and here we go again. We were just talking about the whole side of this here mountain being a nice valley for a little reservoir, and I'm in first gear, and about 5 miles an hour is the best you can get down this road. So it takes me approximately an hour to get 3 miles. They're all private lands. Left, right, forward, the road, everything's private. Nobody comes out here. This is basically my road. I'm the only one that drives it. I maintenance it. I'd like to have this property to the left. It's got this kind of ditch, and that's where the water runoff goes. So it's a little teeny wet valley right here amongst the trees, and a pretty high vertical mountain right here. Just goes straight up. These are really, can you imagine buying this property? Like, there's just no access off of this road. You're going through this ditch, through lava rock, and just almost vertical hiking to get up that. You're not going to build a driveway. So these properties stay basically abandoned and vacant and wild and free due to that reason, because people do not realize when they buy properties in the mountains that it's, of course, a mountain, and the amount of money and time it takes to build a road, and the amount of time and money it takes to build a driveway from this road up the side of this mountain and level off a place that you could build something where you can even stand. I have owned my property for 5 years, and I don't even have a driveway. I've never parked on my property. So, that will be an accomplishment. But I know a lot more about building now, so I have tons of supplies. I can build a house, I can build a cabin, I can build 3 or 4 small studio cabin structures. Probably going to buy multiple more properties all throughout California. I'm kind of a land hound, so I really like outdoor activities, and it's my little addiction. It's my vice, is to go hiking and enjoy myself in places like this, where I can just pull over and walk right up the side of that mountain. But now I don't have to worry about national forest or rangers or even public lands when I'm in national forest. This here left-handed cigarette is an issue with the forest rangers, and they claim some medieval draconian right to basically, if we were on, say, Highway 299 in Humboldt, Trinity, Shasta County, that goes from West Coast Ocean to Nevada, then there are sides of the freeway, just like if we were on the freeway right now, on the right portion and on the left portion of the freeway is national forest. And in that case, that makes it Bureau of Land Management. And in that case, it makes it property of and jurisdiction of the federal government. The police of the federal government in the mountains and forest are the forest rangers. Forest rangers have different legal rights than different enforcement rights than all types of different police and sheriffs and everybody, a meter maid, all have different enforcement rights. So those guys basically since they're out in the woods and wilderness and areas like this, they don't have to abide by the same citizens' rights that citizens might have, because everyone's life is in danger when you're on a road like this. If somebody just walks out right now and says, "Hey," to me, what am I doing? Stop. Do I just keep driving? This is my road. Do I say, "Hey, fuck you, get out of the road"? What do you do? Oh, excuse me. What can I do for you? Hey, where are you going? Who are you? Where are you coming from? Do you answer the person? So my first suggestion, don't ever be on this road. And my second suggestion, don't ever be on a road like this. So again, even if you're in the national forest or wherever, somebody walks up to you and says, "Turn around and get out of here," turn around and get out of there. If you're in the mountains on private roads like this, you know where you're going. In my case, I own this road. I challenge anybody to tell me differently. And so that's a pretty, pronounced statement. Now, a violent criminal or whatever have you isn't about to hear anything. They're not going to ask you those weird questions. They're just out here to hurt people or something, or rob or whatever. Okay, so somebody who legitimately asks you that has a legitimate reason, just like myself. Who are you? Why are you on my road? Does that make sense? So my answer is the same. I am exactly who I say I am on my road. So when two people confront each other, only one of them is going to be right. And so your answer needs to be something of equal might. You have a right to be there. You know the person who owns the road. You're going to a particular property, and you need to have that name. And you need to have permissions to be on that road by that person. So you can't just say you know somebody who lives out here, so you're traveling around. You better be able to have that person show up right now and defend you physically. And not because the person confronting you is going to be violent, but they are the sheriff of this road. Anybody who lives in mountain areas has to protect the road from outside influences. People will come out here to rob and hurt their families or rob them. There is no sheriffs or police or enforcement. So back to the freeway. The National Forest Bureau of Land Management police officers are the forest rangers. And basically, that's their jurisdiction. So typically, most people are accustomed to a highway patrol pulling them over on a highway. But when it comes to areas of the mountains, it becomes the federal government. And what that means is if you're a criminal or possibly even doing something that's legal under your state guidelines, it's possibly illegal under federal guidelines. And if it involves transportation of any kind of merchandise or products that fall under a federal category, then the federal government supersedes the local county and state and city and stuff like that. And so that sounds crazy, but that means that you can get pulled over by federal police in the middle of a forest freeway and charged with crimes that are not crimes in that state. Yeah. So think about that one next time you want to go camping, whether it be bringing some beer or some left-handed cigarettes or whatever the case, going to the beach for summer vacation. There's different rules and regulations. State park versus a national forest versus like a state or federal reserve. Did you know, for instance, travelers, people who live in their vehicles, even homeless people, whatever, obviously you're aware that a lot of camping is illegal, is what they call it, camping, if you live in your vehicle. So we have campgrounds all throughout the nation, RV parks and stuff like that. Those are legal places to camp. But little known fact, that the federal government actually and the state government has national parks, and they have campgrounds, and they have national forests. And you can go camp in the national forest up to 2 weeks. And that's a pretty long time. And then you could possibly go camp somewhere else for an additional amount of time. Now, that's a national forest, which is not necessarily the same as the Bureau of Land Management. The Bureau of Land Management actually has locations, little known fact, that you can camp up to 6 months. It's called long-term camping, long-term parking. And that is for the snowbirds. So people like myself, I own this mountain up here behind us, but you'll just have to get a general understanding that right there is the same as 50 feet behind me. So let's just say I own this to the left. Except, really, I just took 2 hours of videos of my property, and it's beautiful, and it's like rolling, and it's not all vertical like this. It's really nice and flat areas and hiking trails, and it's really beautiful. And this is kind of totally different environment here. But regardless, forgot my very important thing I was talking about. Like I said, we got about 2 miles of this, and you can see the open valley down there. Snowbirds is a term for people that basically retirees that travel in the winter months to places that have very mild climate. So as an example, Southern California, Northern Arizona is known as a haven for snowbirds. That's people that migrate down there from all over the world, probably, let alone California, because the climate is in the mid-70s throughout the winter months. In the summer, however, it can be 130 degrees. So people go down there, and another thing that's a common theme of these people, besides enjoying the weather, is the crystals and rocks and gems. So there's a particular community of people that deal in jewelry and handmade jewelry and rocks. Just, like, oh, look at this cool rock I found, to a more valuable rock, to crystals, to gems, to cut gems, to raw gems, everything to do with gems and crystals and rocks and stuff like that. And there's giant festivals in the town called Quartzsite, Arizona, which happens to be 20 or 30 miles over the border off of Highway 10 down in Southern California. So this whole district area geographically is this really warm area, all from December or November to May or whatever. It's probably too hot by then, but everywhere else in this property right now, you don't want to be out here in 2 months. It's going to be 4 feet deep in snow. It could be 20 below zero. You're not driving down this road. And if you watch one of my other videos, I talk about getting stuck in the snow on this road and using a soup can to stop my car from sliding back off a cliff. That really happened. That's some serious stuff. Your life is in danger. I'm driving in first gear, riding the brake. If this was mud right there, that'd be the only puddle you would get through, because the next one you would get stuck at. So if it rains out here, and if you think your little tires are going to get you through this road, you are absolutely wrong. These trees are going to rip holes in your truck or vehicle. I have 10-ply tires. This right here is a good property I come to get rock from for my driveway that I'm building. No problem. Just get out, pick them up by hand, put them in the back of my truck. No problem. I turn around, drive approximately 3 miles at 1 mile an hour back to my property, take them back out of the truck by hand, and lay them down. In about another 5 or 6 years, I'll get all the rocks that are just in this picture frame onto my driveway, and it'll be enough to have my truck parked. In all seriousness, it doesn't take years to get a parking spot's worth. I've already made a parking spot's worth at my other property, which I haven't mentioned in this video, is in front of us at the bottom of these mountains in the valley. I have a 21-acre property also. We just left my 21-acre property in the mountain. And so 21 acres of that, except much more flatter land and much more desirable in my opinion, because I have groves of mountain mahogany and other really cool trees. I have a big variety of trees. 80% of my property is trees. And old growth sagebrush. Walking down this road from my property takes about 3 hours. It's possibly really enjoyable if you wanted to go for a day hike. It's absolutely terrifying when you're by yourself and you realize that your vehicle is broke down and you're at the top of a mountain 13 miles away from the closest blacktop, and that possibly werewolves are real because something's stalking you. And what is that thing on the ground? Well, I mean, it's not a slug, right? It sure looks like some type of flesh. I mean, it's not a piece of poop. It's red, not like bloody red, but like flesh red. I mean, did something just get eaten and there's just like a little piece of it left right here in the road where you're currently walking for the next many hours because your vehicle's broke down? That kind of terrifying. Yeah, done it. I've done worse walks. I got stuck out in the mountains of the redwoods, and I'll tell you what, I don't know one fear from the other. I mean, when your heart's just jumping out of your skin, you're just so terrified. I left my flashlights. I'm Mr. Survivalist. I left all my flashlights, and my phone wasn't working. I could only do so many survival videos. In case I died, they could find it, because, yeah, that's me, Mr. Blair Witch narrator. And, but yeah, I really did walk for hours down this road, and I really did find a little piece of bloody flesh, and it just my brain just couldn't process what am I looking at? I never to this day could figure out what I'm looking at, except I know that it was a piece of flesh. And the thing about flesh, to overspeak it, is it comes from an animal or a thing, something alive. And that was like just boggled my brain. And I have found so much mountain lion poop today out on my property, and I've seen mountain lions right in front of me. Like, I hope we see one on live video, but it was just be like dink 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 right across the road. It happened. But no, of course I never get these on video. And I took a 1 hour video, and it was still recording. And when I pressed stop, it didn't process. Wow. So I just killed a battery. So this video is going to stop because the battery's going to die. However, it's good enough because we did most of the road and we see the valley in front of us. We've only got approximately a mile left. I have 21 acres in that grassy flatlands down there. That is an old lake bed, and the property will be approximately 4 feet deep in water, which means God provides. So it's not about having water, it's about having to hold it, because if you ever hold water in your hands, eventually it goes through your fingers. So you got to figure out some type of reservoir system. So I've got a few multi-100-gallon white things, but that's not good enough, So you could dig ditches, you could dig a pond, you could also have the government tell you how they own every drop of water, and you can't dam up anything or have water reservoirs, or more than 2 weeks of food, or more than 2 rolls of toilet paper, according to Mayor Gavin Newsom. So I don't believe in government control, which is why I do believe in the state of Jefferson, because I want to own more than 2 rolls of toilet paper, and I want to have water, and I want to be able to retain some of the water that trickles down this mountain so I can jump in it, because it's 100 something degrees out here and your brain just boils. You need water, and it's everywhere. It just floods the road, and that's why I'm driving slower than walking distance right now, when I could just be, cruising. But there's like eroded. The road is eroded because it's a riverbed. I'm driving down a stream bed, so there's plenty of water. The snow gets 4 feet out here. It's going to start snowing this month, in the next few weeks. So this will be one of the last times I make it down here, which is why I really regret. I just took the best hiking videos of my whole property. I surveyed my whole property, and the videos didn't take. And I'm going to have to try and do some more videos, but I haven't been to my property boundaries in years. This was the first time, and I didn't get the video, so that just kills me. We got one more bend, about the last few hundred yards of this mountain road. Well, at least before it becomes obvious that we're at the bottom. Yeah, we are at the bottom for all intents and purposes. The last few hundred feet of elevation anyway. We probably just went up 1,000 feet. Down there in that valley is at least 5,000 feet. So I'm closer to 7,000 feet. Giant alfalfa farms out there. It's hot. It's probably only 70 something degrees, but it feels like it's 100. Sun bearing down this windshield. Just spent the past hour driving down this road. I still have 10 miles before I hit the road, the city public roads. I still have over 10 miles still before I get to the freeways out at the base of those mountains out there. This is all private lands. Everything you can see in front of you, the road I'm driving on, everything to the left right here. First time I come out here, I just parked right here, had a big campfire. Ain't nobody gonna tell me different. Yeah, my road now. Oops, hope I don't drive off it. Don't break down. Yep, then you're gonna walk hours and hours and hours. So, yeah. Only one or two families living out here right now. Stuff will get robbed. Squatters and looters come out here and rob you blind for your supplies, break in your house, your cabin. They'll live in it. I had 2 different thieves break into my property. That's my property out there. I don't think the camera picked it up, and I'm not going to zoom in because I don't care. I've lost so many videos today, and we're on the last few seconds before the battery dies on this phone. Even though I charged it, I knew everything that could possibly happen to try and work against me would. So I charged my batteries. Next time I'm bringing extra phones with me. So if the phone decides it needs some kind of whatever, it won't work, or the battery dies, or the SD card, it's all junk. Yeah. Enter at your own risk. That's what that needs, is a sign that says that right there. Because there ain't nobody except a 70-year-old couple that are driving the next 3 miles behind us back up this road. That's it. Nobody out here. There's a few properties down here that are inhabited. There's some properties in that mountain ridge that are inhabited. Access them to the right of this road. But as far as this road right here that we're on, nobody's driving down this road because nobody belongs on this road. And the only inhabited properties on this road, there's 3. One has been abandoned. The other one might check in on their property every few years. They don't live there. They've moved on. And then there's an old couple that lives closer to me that I just bought tires for. So this is the break of the road right here. And I don't go that way. That way better not come this way. That's that. And this is all private still. Nobody belongs out here. We don't regulate out here like we do in Humboldt and Trinity County. It's very open-minded and liberal here. You would think it's the exact opposite in the land of hippies, but actually you'll get shot and hogtied to a tree and all sorts of stuff if you go up the mountain roads of Humboldt County. You go up any roads like this in Humboldt County, you're likely to not be seen again, or you might be hogtied to a tree and dumped off, or hogtied and dumped off somewhere in some place that you have to walk 30 miles. Your car will be pushed off a cliff or burned. Yeah, they don't take kindly to strangers. Yeah. Out here, there's no one. So the people that come out here are all foreigners. They're not from here. So they don't have any particular kind of you better get on type of trespassing mentality because they're not mountain folk. And the mountain folk that are out here, the ranchers, they're too far and in between. They just own all of the mountains. So anywhere where anybody else might go to live, they'll never cross paths. So the only people that come out here are transplants from somewhere thinking they're going to run some kind of business or possibly, build some kind of cabin or utopian dream that's complete fantasy because come July, it's going to be 28 degrees. So you're not going to be able to handle the weather. Freeze to death. All throughout the year it rains, and then the road becomes unpassable for weeks at a time, so then you can't get supplies in and out. And the second you do ever get out of that rut, I mean literally, because your vehicle's buried up to its axles in mud, and you dig yourself out and the weather changes and everything dries and you drive out of there, you never come back. And that's what happened to endless amount of people who bought these properties everywhere around us, to the tops of those mountains, to behind us, to the tops of my mountain, have never lived there and have never came back when they did come out here. So what about hunters? Okay, do you see any? It's hunting season right now. This is so far off the grid. None of this is private. None of this is public. In order to hunt, you have 2 options. Yeah, you can hunt on private lands, but these aren't hunting reserves. So hunting reserve is actually hundreds of acres, like what you see here. You would want to be able to go walk around and hunt out here. Yeah, you could just put up your camp right there, and you're going to be getting antelope, for instance, and deer. But you can't legally, because this very foot right there is private land. The top of that mountain to right here outside my doorway is private land. I don't have a right to step out and pee on that bush. I can. No one will stop me. I could put up a whole tent and build a cabin right there, and no one will ever stop me. For one, because I'm local. 2, because there's nobody's going to really know except for the landowner. And the landowner, again, is not somebody who comes out here. So that's why you don't see any fences or anything. And the few structures that you may see out here could be 20, 30, 50 years old and abandoned, and deteriorated and fallen apart and whatnot. So all of these properties, all of these mountain ranges and everything is all owned. And it's not by one person. There might be 100 different owners, all owning 20-acre properties, 10-acre properties out here. And none of them have ever been built on. Never had any fences. The only fences really are possibly some cattle fences. And ranchers don't build fences. Typically, it's the people who own the property keep ranchers out. So in this case out here, the cows will be right here in the middle of this road, just walking straight up to the top of that mountain. They go any direction they want. This is all open range. Multi-thousand-pound cows, the size of the whole size of the front of my truck, would be just like one cow, no problem. The whole hood. So you wouldn't want to run into one of those. Besides hurting it, I mean, you'll likely possibly die. I mean, it'll be a pretty bad wreck if you were to run into a cow at full speed. So when you're driving out in the country, you don't want to drive in the mountains or in the country at night at all. Not because of cows, but because of deer. Same threat, slightly smaller, but you're still going to wreck your car and possibly drive off the road, or make the mistake of swerving to avoid Bambi and then drive off the road, so think about it. Deer are just giant rats. Don't worry about it. There's plenty more. Save your life and family. Do not swerve for a rabbit, a squirrel, or a deer, and slow down in the mountains. So we're at the last few hundred feet of the mountain. These people right here to the right of us, they got cannabis abatement down here by this telephone pole. We've got a private road sign for our association out here, and the government, county, weed enforcement, code enforcement, whoever, I don't give a shit, came out and decided these people were growing a ton of weed. Clearly they're not. We have multi-million-dollar crops growing right this minute out here. I'm not going to videotape them, but anyway, I'll videotape these guys because they've been not lived there for years. But they just got enforcement on their stupid thing. I mean, maybe it's not for this property, but people come out here, put up giant greenhouses, but there's nothing to see here. This place has been closed down for a minute. They had giant greenhouses here for years. It's strange that code enforcement would just put paperwork on this sign. This little silver thing in front of you, that little square, that's a sign for our property owners association, basically, which doesn't cost anything, but it's the best way to put it. I'm a property owner out here, and the only person that's allowed on this road, left, right, forward, behind me, are other property owners. And that's what that sign says with code of the county and all that.